Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to another interview edition of the Italian Football Podcast. My name is Nima Tavallo. I'm not joined by Carlo Garganese, but as part of our Summer Mercato series, we are welcoming back the great Alfredo Pedulla. We've had him once earlier this summer. We will be running down what the big teams are doing in the Mercato these final 2 weeks. So, Alfredo, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Grazie a voi, buona giornata a tutti.
Right, let's start with Napoli. Which players and positions are Napoli working on in these final days of the transfer window?
Il prossimo acquisto del Napoli?
Yeah.
Ma adesso c'è un problema molto importante.
Right now, there is a very important problem at Napoli because Lukaku has injured himself and we will know today precisely how long Lukaku will be out for. I don't want to act like I'm a doctor, therefore I don't want to make assessments. Also because it is only right that it's them, Napoli, who publish the correct and detailed news after they have understood the situation. If it is an injury that keeps him out for longer than 2 months, but also even if he is out for less than 2 months, and with Napoli having lots of commitments and only having Luka in attack, it's possible that Napoli could return to signing another striker, which was not part of their plans, because Napoli sold Raspadori, they sold Simeone, they have Lukaku and Luka. We will see the extent of the injury, but it is possible that Napoli could look to sign another striker, maybe on loan, because if Lukaku is out for many months, it would be a problem moving forward with only Luka in attack.
Per tanti mesi sarebbe poi un problema andare avanti soltanto con Luka.
Are there any other positions that Napoli want to strengthen? Altre posizioni?
No, il Napoli sta seguendo altre situazioni.
No, Napoli is working on other fronts. Juanlu Sanchez, the Sevilla fullback, is a soap opera that's going forward this week because he wants to go to Napoli and doesn't want to go to any other club. Wolverhampton were keen on him, then they went after other players. He played yesterday for Sevilla. There are also financial fair play issues. Today, Napoli hope to get into direct negotiations in order to convince Sevilla. Napoli could still make another 3-4 signings. Today, this morning, Gutierrez arrived from Girona to undergo his medicals. The deal is worth 20 million, but Napoli could sign another fullback, a midfielder and a winger or maybe a striker, so therefore Napoli is still very active on the market.
Operazione da circa 20 milioni, ma il Napoli può fare il terzino, il centrocampista, l'esterno offensivo e forse un attaccante, quindi il Napoli è molto molto attivo sul mercato.
Okay. So very busy days for Napoli. Speaking of telenovela, let's talk about Atalanta. Ademola Lookman, is he leaving? And is the Inter transfer definitely over? What are his options? What's happening?
Ma guarda, questa è una storia incredibile che secondo me hanno...
Look, this is an incredible story where everyone involved has exaggerated, in my opinion, because it is a story that started a month ago. Lookman is still in London. No one understands why he is in London, because he is under contract with Atalanta. Atalanta pay his salary, they make bank transfers to him, they pay him a lot of money, and he is still there in London. So I ask myself and I ask you, why is he in London? Why is he convinced that someone will come along and liberate him? Why is he convinced that Inter, given some more time, will make the right offer? Atalanta are not getting involved and prefer to just leave him there. It is a story that is difficult to explain because it is also difficult to say that Zalewski, who right now as we are recording this, is undergoing his medicals for Atalanta, that Inter and Atalanta concluded the Zalewski deal without so much as even having spoken about Lookman. It's hard to wrap one's head around that. I don't think that to be true. I think that Lookman can always end up going to Inter. There could also be an option to go abroad, but he has promised himself to Inter up until now. Last year, Arsenal were tracking him. I reported it last summer about Arsenal's interest, but as far as I know right now, in this minute, there is no offer from Arsenal. It is a transfer market story, but it's not a nice situation, because when you are an employee of a club and then stay in London because you disagree with what your club is doing, for me these situations should be resolved in a matter of days. But instead, many weeks have passed. We're already on week 5. Over a month has passed. It's not a nice story. It's a situation that I don't like. It's a situation that doesn't honor anyone. Generally speaking, it isn't a very nice story concerning the transfer market. Also, Giashari, because he wanted to go to Milan, didn't train with his club. He stayed at his club, he just didn't train with them. In my opinion, this is a more correct way to handle the situation. They haven't given Lookman good advice. The advice that Lookman has received isn't good at all.
No, it isn't.
Anche Giashari con il Milan, per andare al Milan, non si è allenato, ma non è che è andato via dal Belgio ed è andato a Manchester o è andato in America, è rimasto con il suo club, non si è allenato, è già un modo un po' più giusto di gestire questa cosa. Secondo me a Lookman non hanno dato tanti buoni consigli, i consigli che hanno dato a Lookman non sono stati molto buoni.
No. How will Atalanta replace Retegui, and if Lookman leaves, who will they try to bring in? Will they try to bring in
l'Atalanta deve prendere due attaccanti.
Atalanta has to sign two strikers if Lookman leaves, because they still haven't replaced Retegui. As you quite rightly say, Atalanta thought they had signed Muniz from Fulham, but Muniz scored. It's unclear if this was a goodbye to Fulham or if this was a way to say that he wants to stay with Fulham. Atalanta will not wait very many days more. Today, Monday, 18th of August, I think Atalanta will make maximum until Wednesday, the 20th of August. They will wait tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and then they will pursue other options. Atalanta offered 40 million for Muniz. Fulham are asking for more. Fulham don't have a replacement for him. They tried to sign Kevin from Shakhtar, who costs 50 million, but they still haven't been able to wrap up that deal, even though Kevin has, in my opinion, different characteristics. However, he is a striker that they want to sign. Atalanta will wait today, tomorrow 19th of August, and Wednesday the 20th of August, and if the deal isn't done by the 20th of August, they will go after another striker. Kristovic is a striker that Atalanta likes. Arokodare, who plays in Belgium, is another striker that Atalanta like. Therefore, they will wait slightly longer for Muniz before moving to different targets.
Un altro attaccante che piace all'Atalanta, quindi loro aspetteranno ancora per un po' Muniz e poi andranno su altre cose.
Okay. Let's talk about Inter. After having failed so far with Ademola Lookman and Koné from Roma, who are Inter working on to sign now?
Ma guarda, su Koné, ieri Koné sui social...
Look, yesterday Koné published a post on Instagram, his mission with Roma. Therefore, Koné doesn't want to leave. Roma could decide to sell him out of necessity, and he is a transfer that would generate capital gains. Roma have spent money and want to cash in on 45-50 million. Roma want 50 million. Gasperini is a little bit perplexed because their transfer window deals have been delayed, and because there is this Sancho problem where they have agreed terms with Manchester United, but Sancho hasn't given the green light to the deal. He is a priority for Gasperini, and other clubs could get involved. Therefore, with regards to Koné, up until now, when we're recording this, we have to think that there is someone out there that is prepared to pay 50 million, and that Roma, who just came out of financial difficulties, having paid a fine and can't spend freely, also have to make sales. So Koné isn't like Lookman. Koné isn't saying that he wants to leave. Koné has not run away to another place. He's not hiding. He says, I want to stay here. So it's a slightly different situation. Then, if someone arrives and presents you with 50 million and tells you, look, here, but not just Inter, it could be a club from the Premier League that offers 50 million. With 50 million being offered until September 1st, 2025, we have to wait and see, because 50 million is always a lot of money.
Quindi è una storia un po' diversa. Poi se qualcuno si presenta con 50 milioni ti dice guarda, ma non soltanto l'Inter, può essere anche dalla Premier, qualcuno che mette dei 50 milioni, con 50 milioni fino al 1 settembre del 2025 noi dobbiamo aspettare, perché 50 milioni sono sempre tantissimi soldi.
It is. It's a lot of money. I wanted to ask you about Inter, because this has been a strange mercato for Inter. It seemed that they wanted to bring in Lookman to play a 3-4-2-1. Now it seems if Lookman is not going to come, Inter are focusing on a mediano, on a central midfielder, to continue playing 3-5-2. Is this your opinion too?
Ma oggi 18 agosto si può dire una
Today,
cosa,
the 18th of August, we can say one thing, and that is that Inter could make one, but also up to 3 more signings, because Pavard is not unsellable for Inter. Pavard doesn't want to go to Saudi. Galtier said on my TV channel, Sport Italia, after the last friendly against Roma, we interviewed him and asked him a direct question: is it true that you want Pavard? And he replied, yes, it's true, we made him a big offer. However, given it is a World Cup year, Pavard doesn't want to go to Saudi and Pavard wants to stay in Europe. Therefore, if Pavard leaves, Inter can sign another defender. Lione was always going to be difficult because Lione wanted to go to Liverpool, because Liverpool offered a lot of money. Udinese's Soulet is a possibility for Inter if Pavard leaves. Then they need a midfielder. We will have to wait and see what happens for Koné. Asllani is negotiating with Bologna. This was my exclusive from a few days ago. Now these negotiations are direct and ongoing. It's possible that the deal is closed this week or by the weekend. Inter could make one of three signings. They could sign an attacker, a midfielder and a defender. If Pavard leaves, they have to sign a defender. Bisek isn't leaving, therefore it's only Pavard who could leave. A midfielder if Asllani leaves. Remember that Taremi is on the market too. Taremi and Zielinski are on the market. Taremi earns 4 million net, Zielinski more than 4 million net. Therefore gross you save more or less the double of that, which is a lot of money. So in my opinion, these last 15 days of the transfer window, Inter will be a protagonist.
Taremi 4 milioni di ingaggio netti, Zielinski 4 milioni, più di 4 milioni netti, quindi all'ordo, al doppio più o meno, risparmiereste un sacco di soldi. Quindi l'Inter, secondo me, in questi ultimi 15 giorni di mercato sarà protagonista.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. Let's talk to Juventus. They're trying to sell players before buying. They have three players that I wanted to discuss with you. Let's start with Dusan Vlahovic. What's happening?
Dusan Vlahovic is a big problem, cioè un grande problema. Perché
Dusan Vlahovic is a big problem. He is a big problem. It is a problem for Juve, not for Vlahovic though. Vlahovic earns 1 million at the end of every month, so there are no problems for Vlahovic because he's on huge wages. The only problem for Vlahovic is that it is a World Cup year, so he can't wait too long because if he doesn't play, he's the one who will suffer the most from it. Yesterday, Ilitare spoke. Let me tell you something. Milan are tracking 2 or 3 strikers. If it were up to Allegri, they would sign Vlahovic and not Hojlund. Then maybe Hojlund arrives, but for them Vlahovic is more of a priority in terms of importance. Because Vlahovic is a better player than Hojlund. Vlahovic can guarantee you 15 to 18 goals. Hojlund is a question mark, it's an unknown. I don't know. Because Hojlund, when he was in Italy, when he left Atalanta to go to Manchester United, he'd scored 7-8 goals. He hasn't scored a lot of goals at Manchester United. Therefore, for Juve, who want to bring back Colomwani this week, they could find themselves with 3 attackers: Jonathan David, Dusan Vlahovic and Randall Colomwani. But I think that we have to pay attention to Vlahovic until the end of the window, because Juventus don't want to be taken to the cleaners. And Vlahovic, who earns a lot, thinks about the fact that being the 3rd striker at Juve, where he wouldn't play a lot during the World Cup year, won't be a very nice thing, because strikers need to play, they need to score. Vlahovic has always scored during pre-season this year, even when he hasn't started. When he has come on, he has scored. He scored even in the last game, in Bergamo against Atalanta. It also depends a lot on what Juventus wants, which I think can't be 25 million euros. They can ask for 16 million euros plus add-ons. And if Milan are okay with this sum, then I think it's all to play for, without forgetting Hojlund, because Hojlund is also on Milan's list.
Dipenderà molto dalle richieste che farà la Juventus, che non credo che potrà chiedere 25 milioni, potrà chiedere 16 milioni più bonus, e se al Milan starà bene questa cifra, penso che sia ancora una partita aperta, senza dimenticare Hojlund, perché anche Hojlund è dentro la lista del Milan.
Okay. Well, I mean, speaking of Juve as well, Nico Gonzalez, we're going to get to Milan. Nico Gonzalez and Douglas Luiz, what's the situation there?
Ma Douglas Luiz è molto vicino alla cessione.
Douglas Luiz is very close to being sold. Nottingham Forest, who've started the Premier League well with Ndoi, who want to sign more players. They thought about Musa now, however they are thinking about Douglas with an offer of 35-38 million on a permanent basis. which is what Juventus wants, because Juventus don't want to make a capital loss. They made a 50 million investment last year in order to sign him from Aston Villa. Not 50 million cash, because they included Barrenechea and Ealing Jr. in the deal. They spent around 20 million, but the investment was 50 million. I think there's a good possibility that Douglas Luiz likes it. If you ask my opinion, this is a mistake. I would have given another chance to Douglas Luiz, because if you sell Douglas Luiz and, for example, sign O'Reilly, for me Douglas Luiz is a better player than O'Reilly. O'Reilly is a good player, but Douglas Luiz, if he plays with the confidence and belief of the environment and the coach in him, he will do so very well. In Italy, we haven't seen him play 4 or 5 matches in a row, not even 3. If he plays 2-3 matches in a row and you show confidence in him, for me, he can demonstrate his true level. Atletico Madrid is monitoring Nico Gonzalez. We reported a few days ago, thanks to my colleague Gianluigi Longari, the news about Jadon Zegrova. If Nico Gonzalez leaves, he is a possibility. Lille Zegrova has an expiring contract and is very liked by De Zerbi. Marseille are in talks, but it depends on what happens with Nico Gonzalez. If Nico Gonzalez leaves in the next 2 to 4 days, Juventus could still have time to sign Zegrova, who will surely be an excellent signing as an attacking wide player.
Nico Gonzalez. Se Nico Gonzalez va via in 2, 3, 4 giorni, allora la Juve può essere ancora in tempo per soffiare Zegrova, che sarebbe sicuramente un ottimo colpo come esterno offensivo.
Yeah. So, is there anyone that Juventus want to sign, bring in before the window closes?
Altri giocatori, altri acquisti.
Look, there is a necessity to sign a central defender. Bremer's condition is improving. You have Gatti, you have Kelly. If Kelly returns to England, then a defender could arrive at the end of the window. But you have Gatti, Bremer, Kalulu, Kelly, Rugani. In this moment, you're in a good place. Maybe a player as a right wing-back, not right winger. But first, Savona has to be sold in order to sign another defender. Right now, Juventus want to sign Colomwani. They want to bring Colomwani home. They're very close, given Colomwani's willingness too. A midfielder and an attacking winger if Nico Gonzalez leaves. Therefore, a striker, midfielder and an attacking winger. The other areas of the pitch will be addressed only if a player leaves, if there is an offer for Savona. Otherwise, Juventus are fine like this.
Quindi centravanti, centrocampista, esterno offensivo. Poi gli altri ruoli soltanto se ci sono delle uscite, se c'è un'offerta per Savona, altrimenti la Juve sta a posto così.
Let's talk about Roma quickly. What business is Roma planning on doing? And is there a possibilità that Roma signs both Jadon Sancho and Leon Bailey? Or is that
Leon Bailey siamo...
With regards to Leon Bailey, we're close, very close. His agent has spoken, everything is okay. We're only missing the formal aspects, the bureaucracy, the medicals, the signing of the contract. I expect to see him in Rome soon. With regards to Sancho, Roma have done everything. Roma have a complete agreement with Manchester United. They all know it, and so it depends on Sancho. If Sancho had already said yes, he would have been in Rome already last Thursday or Friday. Roma have done everything with Manchester United. They've offered the money Manchester United want. They offered money to Sancho. Maybe Sancho doesn't want to give up some of the money he's currently on. He could decide to, with all due respect, go to a league that is less important than the Serie A. But it would be Sancho's problem to play in a smaller league. Roma are still waiting, but they won't wait forever. They have done what they should do. This is a transfer that I reported exclusively on last Sunday, 8 days ago. Roma thought they'd already closed it, but they haven't. They will wait a little bit longer, but they can't wait forever, because the transfer window isn't open for much longer. Also, Gasperini is a demanding coach. He is a coach who wants things and says, I want players, I want Sancho at all costs, but it also depends on Sancho. We'll have to wait a little longer to see how this story ends.
Il mercato non è lunghissimo e Gasperini è un allenatore esigente, un allenatore che vuole, che dice voglio i calciatori, vorrebbe a tutti i costi Sancho, ma dipende anche da Sancho. Aspettiamo ancora un po', vediamo come finisce questa vicenda.
Yeah. You mentioned, let's move to Milan. You mentioned Rasmus Hojlund, Dusan Vlahovic, so we've already covered that. But I wanted to ask you, if Milan sign is the striker position the last position that Milan want to sign a player for?
Tra Hojlund e Vlahovic?
Yes, you already said, hai già detto che se arriva uno tra Vlahovic o Hojlund, però io chiedo che la posizione di attaccante, questo sarà dopo, se arriva un attaccante al Milan, sarà l'ultima operazione di mercato o faranno qualcosa di più?
Non è scontato perché
No, that's not necessarily the case, because Milan need to still make some sales, because yesterday's Salamakers did really well. Therefore, they're in a good place on the wings. They have to decide if they are to sign another central defender, because they play a 3-5-2. Therefore, with 3 central defenders, they don't have that many of those. They have Pavlovic, Tomori, they signed De Winter, they have Gabbia. Maybe they could do with a 5th central defender. No, their transfer window isn't closed. Then it depends. Maybe an offer arrives from Musa, who right now is part of Milan. An offer could arrive for Okafor, which is a situation to monitor because he could leave. I'm not sure that their striker options are okay. The transfer window usually has a surprise or two in store for you in the last week. Opportunities, maybe investments and things that you thought you wouldn't do. Therefore, we have to follow it until the end and not bank on the fact that Milan will only sign a player for the striker position.
Okay. Just quickly on Lazio, all summer we have heard about the situation with that Lazio have. I mean, how do you know Maurizio Sarri very well? Is he angry at the situation? How does he feel about this?
But
this is not a very nice situation. Roma signs Wesley, Bailey, Ferguson. Milan signs Giashari, Modric. Inter signs players. Juve signs players. But Lazio sign no one they want. Then those who want to be a bit shallow, in my opinion, say that this is an advantage to have a group, well, but it's not an advantage at all when the others are strengthening. It's not an advantage at all, and it's a very Italian way to just make things easy and simplify them. But what advantage is this? Everyone is strengthening and you are not. You can count on a group you know well, that's a different thing. But there are teams that are stronger. Napoli, Milan, Juventus and even Fiorentina, they've all had a proper transfer market. Sarri has decided to take on this very difficult situation. No one told him that the transfer market would be blocked. In Rome, 30,000 season tickets have been bought by Lazio fans. It's incredible. 30,000 tickets sold without a single signing. It's incredible because usually season tickets are bought when you sign players. Evidently, the fans have really appreciated Sarri's return. There are those who say that Sarri could have the excuse of not having signed any players if things go badly. But Sarri is a coach that wants to do well. We will see. A lot also depends on the first 3-4 matches and where they are in December. If they are in 6th, 7th spot and not too far off points-wise from the top 4, they could try to sign players, but it's not an easy situation.
Poi vediamo come arriveranno a dicembre, se arriveranno in 6ª, 7ª posizione e non tanto distanti dalle prime 4 potranno provare, ma è una situazione non facilissima.
No. Is there any chance that they can sign Lorenzo Insigne on a free transfer?
Lorenzo Insigne,
Lorenzo Insigne, it's a news that I broke. If it were up to Lorenzo Insigne, he would have already signed for Lazio. Lorenzo Insigne wants to at all costs and in all ways work again with Maurizio Sarri because they have a fantastic relationship going back to their time together at Napoli. I'll tell you something crazy. In my opinion, this is just my thoughts. He would sign now a contract that starts in January, not in October or January, because he thinks Sarri is the right coach to help him relaunch his career. We will see. He has had other offers, but he hasn't accepted them because he wants to wait. We will see on August 31st if he accepts other offers or if he continues to wait for Lazio.
Finally, I wanted to ask you about Gigio Donnarumma. This is something we have discussed a lot on this podcast, that we don't like how in modern football, the best goalkeeper in the world, Donnarumma, is being thrown out of PSG because he's not good with the ball at his feet. It's assurd, è una situazione assurda. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think he's going to go to Manchester City?
Ma guarda, forse di questa situazione non conosciamo tutto.
It's an absurd situation, but look, maybe we don't know everything about this situation. Otherwise, how do you explain it? We don't know everything that has happened. We don't know the whole story. He's the best goalkeeper in the world. 60-70% of the reason PSG won the Champions League was thanks to him. He saved everything that he needed to, and you offer him a contract where he would earn less than what he earns the previous year because he earned 12 million last year and they offered him 6-7 million with add-ons. No, you have to offer him 15-17 million, given that PSG have always gifted important salaries to everyone. Also in terms of meritocracy, in the sense that he won you the Champions League and he was the biggest architect behind that Champions League win. So evidently there are things we don't know. But I reported exclusively on May 7th, speaking about a possibility of Donnarumma to Manchester City, explaining that if Ederson leaves Manchester City, would have made an offer. Up until a few days ago, everyone said Manchester City would never have made an offer for Donnarumma, having signed another goalkeeper. It doesn't seem like that to me. I think that if Ederson goes to Galatasaray, as I think he could, then Manchester City will look to sign Donnarumma because Pep Guardiola is a big admirer of Donnarumma. He's already tried, he already looked into it, and isn't that if you have another goalkeeper you don't snap up Donnarumma? Because if you don't sign Donnarumma, you risk that someone else signs him in a couple of months. Let me give you an example. If Donnarumma's contract expires, there is always the possibility that Bayern, who need to replace Neuer, given this is probably his last year, or that some Italian club who won't spend on his transfer fee, could make him an offer of 10 million euros net to return to Italy. This is why Manchester City wants to conclude this deal now, in order to not risk losing him. We will see, but there are important possibilities because this thing will go to the wire.
Vediamo, ma ci sono delle possibilità importanti perché questa cosa vada fino in fondo.
Thank you. Before we end, I wanted to ask you to make a bit predictions, just one-word answers going into the season. Okay, just
il mago.
Yeah, exactly. Il mago Pedulla.
Il mago, non sono un mago, ma cerco di.
I'm not a wizard, but I will try to predict what I can. I think it's Napoli if things stay like this until the 31st of August or 1st of September. If then Inter sign Lookman and get Koné, then I will change what I'm telling you now. I will change it because Lookman, Boni, Thuram, Lautaro. Look, I see Napoli, even if losing Lukaku is a huge setback. I like Juventus, even if many criticize them. If Juventus are able to complete their squad, they have a strong squad. I don't know if they are there until the end for the Scudetto, but they are a strong team. However, Antonio Conte is at Napoli and he is a guarantee, and there is a group that is still very strong. If I have to say something today, I say Napoli.
C'è un gruppo ancora più forte, se dovessi dire un qualcosa in più oggi dico Napoli.
Who will be the capocannoniere?
Ma se Lautaro dovesse stare.
If Lautaro is fit, for me he's a very strong candidate. Then I'm curious to see how many goals Jonathan David scores, because I like him a lot. He's in my opinion a very good striker. Maybe many in Italy didn't understand how good he was when he arrived on a free transfer. We will see which striker Milan signs. If Milan signs Vlahovic, I will add him to this list. If they sign Hojlund, I don't think he will be top goal scorer, but he will surely score 10-12 goals. Luka intrigues me, but I don't think he will be Serie A top goal scorer. In the end, in the discussion about Lautaro, a lot depends on Lautaro.
Penso che alla fine il discorso Lautaro dipenda molto da Lautaro.
Who will be the Serie A MVP?
Il giocatore della Serie A. Ma penso che
I think that De Bruyne could do very well. Last season it was McTominay. De Bruyne could do very well. In Italy we say that football in August counts for nothing, but during football in August you can see that a player hasn't arrived in Italy to pass time, as a hobby, to make money, but because he wants to forget the manner in which he left Manchester City, which he is not happy about. Therefore, I think there's a good chance it could be him. He surely is one of the candidates.
Ma perché vuole dimenticare magari come è andato via dal Manchester City, che non è contento, quindi ci sono buone possibilità che possa essere lui. Sicuramente è uno dei candidati.
Best coach, who will be coach of the year? Allenatore dell'anno.
Ma sicuramente ci sono dei giovani che possono.
There are many young coaches who could do well, but I won't mention and I won't speak about Sarri because he's my friend. it wouldn't be right to mention him. But Antonio Conte, I've told you Napoli, but we have to wait until the end of the mercato. Best player, De Bruyne. Best coach, Conte. If you ask me the best president, I'll say De Laurentiis. The best Messor, I'll tell you it's Napoli's Messor. And then this way we have said Napoli all the way minute by minute, okay?
Tutto il Napoli minuto per minuto.
Okay, perfetto. And I just wanted to ask you, who will win the Champions League? Last question.
Io penso che Luis Enrique.
I think that Luis Enrique has demonstrated that with work and not with figurines, not with Mbappé, you can be competitive. It's the same teams otherwise. I think that Liverpool is a very strong squad. I think that if they sign Donnarumma, Manchester City is a team that could go all the way.
Se dovesse prendere Donnarumma, il Manchester City è una squadra che può andare fino in fondo.
Thank you so much, Alfredo, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. I know you're really busy, especially towards the end of the mercato. I know you have so much to do, so thank you so much for coming. We'll be tagging you on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all your things in the description below. Grazie ancora.
Grazie a voi, è un piacere mio. Saluto tutti i vostri tantissimi utenti, ascoltatori, telespettatori, tutto quello è. Li saluto con grande affetto, mi ha fatto molto molto piacere e vi auguro il meglio.
Thank you, Alfredo. Everyone else will be back on Wednesday. Take care of yourselves. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.